Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the content patch for the 1st of July 2014. My name is TotalBiscuit with today's gaming news and comment. Coming up in the show, Rebellion revokes 7,050 stolen Steam keys for Sniper Elite 3, and gamers are not happy. All this in the OC Remix track of the day is coming your way right about now. Developer of the Sniper Elite series Rebellion has revoked 7,050 Steam keys for its latest title Sniper Elite 3 after claiming that the keys were stolen and redistributed to other third-party resellers. To clarify, they said, one of our PC retail distributors informed us that some of the allotted Steam keys were stolen. We believe those keys were then resold to multiple companies with no payments going to either Valve or the retail distributor. They've offered a form of compensation with the Target Hitler DLC, although they will not be refunding for the game itself, and of course the DLC will not work unless you own a legitimate copy of the game in the first place. Those affected will have until July the 4th to contact Rebellion to claim their DLC. So, all sorted out, right? I'm sure the gamers were extremely happy with that offer and acted in a reasonable and calm manner. No, they hate Rebellion, and they blame Rebellion for the whole thing, demanding refunds from Rebellion for this. Okay. Right, so here's how stolen property works in pretty much every country in the world ever. If you don't know it's stolen, you're not prosecuted for owning it, but you have to get rid of it. Yeah, they take it back. If they realize it's stolen, they know who the rightful owner is, they take it back, and no, you are not compensated for it, in the vast majority of circumstances. The property must be returned to its rightful owner. That is the law in most civilized countries, including America and various European nations. You are not going to find all that many exceptions to that, and that includes digital Steam keys, I am afraid. So if these are stolen keys and you have bought them from someone that would source their keys from slightly irreputable places, let's just say, then unfortunately, that's kind of the cost of doing business. Here's the thing, right? There are plenty of grey market key resellers, and how exactly do you think that those key resellers manage to get things cheaper? Yeah? How is it that these key resellers are able to provide games cheaper than Steam, and GOG, and Green Man Gaming, and Gamersgate? How do they do that? Well, it's not through some kind of magical wizardry, I can tell you that for a fact. They do it by sourcing their keys from different places, some of which are stolen. It's as simple as that. They don't really check where they're acquired from. If someone comes up to them with 5,000 keys and said, I'll sell you each of these for X amount, then some of these resellers are going to buy those keys in bulk and then sell them on. They, of course, also acquire keys from other regions where the keys are cheaper, such as the CIS, where you'll generally find that keys are cheaper than they would be otherwise. They're able to pass the savings on. But here's the thing. The reason why those keys are cheaper is to try and fight piracy, and also to try and be fair to a region that actually has much less money than, say, America would on average. So it's a bit more difficult to justify $60 price tag for a video game in a country where the average monthly salary is much, much lower than somewhere like, say, America or the UK. It makes perfect sense. It's either that, or you have to price these things up, and the piracy just goes out of control at that point. You have to price it in a way that the market can actually bear, and if it can't bear it, well, they're not just going to stop playing video games, they're going to find another way to get it. And you would like legitimate customers, right? Even if they're paying less overall, you'd still prefer they pay something rather than nothing. The problem with these key resellers is that if the keys end up in the hands of one of these guys, none of that money is going to Steam or to a legitimate retailer, and of course none of it's going to the developer and the publisher either. If the keys are stolen, then the only people making the money are the thieves and the site that bought the stolen goods. If they're buying grey market, then the company is still getting some money. The developer will still get some, but it won't be as much. And what you're doing there is you're taking a consumer that would have potentially bought something at full price, and you're converting them into a customer that's actually buying a copy that was intended for a different region, that was intended for someone that obviously earned a lot less. Now, there's not an awful lot you can really do to stop that outside of full-on region-locking games, and region-locking games really sucks. It's not consumer-friendly, it causes a massive number of problems, particularly for people either going on holiday or indeed emigrating. If they emigrate and suddenly their Steam collection doesn't work anymore, well, That sucks. That's not good at all. It also limits things like being able to gift to friends in other countries, which is a very common thing to do. And it limits things like trading. You don't really want to do that. And of course, Steam doesn't really want to do that either. They want to encourage trading in general. That's why the system's set up to allow that to happen. You also would have difficulty making the argument of the lost sale. If we go back to an old video that I made, and some of you perhaps remember it because I pissed off a lot of people with it, the devil's halibut about used games, I was talking about lost sales and lost revenue, and the fact that I believe, and I do still believe, that the aggressive selling of used games at places like GameStop is actually a guaranteed lost sale. Now, this is only in the circumstance of somebody who brings a new copy up to the counter and then is offered a used copy and buys that instead. Yeah? That is a provable lost sale. Now, you can't prove that this would be a lost sale. You can't prove that that person that bought the grey market discounted key would have bought at full price. They possibly don't have the money for it, they maybe never intended to buy at full price, and if they weren't able to buy at a discounted price, they probably would have just waited for the sale anyway and bought it then. So, you know, you can't really make too many arguments there. But what you can say for certain is, one, you are not entitled to compensation if you buy stolen goods, regardless of whether or not you knew it. Secondly, you are taking a risk when you purchase from a grey market key reseller that it may very well be a stolen key. You don't know. There are plenty of people that have bought from these sites and have had no problems with them whatsoever, but there are plenty of stories of when they have. We've seen issues with Devolver Digital's games claiming that sites like G2A are selling illegitimate keys. Same with Humble Bundle. That was mostly user reselling though, as far as I'm aware, but there was issues with things like Blood Bowl a long time ago. Stolen keys happen, I'm afraid. They do. And you can never tell. They're mixed in with the inventory there. How can you possibly tell? Even if you trust a website. Because these keys were resold on a lot of different sites, some of which, by the way, are considered fairly trustworthy by some people. So the only thing you can do if you bought the key, well, sucks to be you, but you've got to ask for a refund from the retailer. It's not Rebellion's responsibility to give you money because you bought something that was stolen from them. That's not their responsibility, and raging at them is absurd. It really is. There's a lot of ad hominem going on saying, oh, well, you know, they're just trying to cover up the fact that they're currently trying to sue Ironclad for the word rebellion in the title Sins of a Solar Empire Rebellion. Yeah, okay, that's a dickish thing to do, but it also has nothing to do with this issue. Quit trying to change the bloody subject. We can deal with that later. Ask for a refund from the place that you bought it from, not from the company that got ripped off. It's like, oh, great, well, so you were ripped off as a company. Well, I'd like to double rip you off right now because I'm upset that I bought a key from an illegitimate seller and got burned by that. Call it the price of doing business. If you're going to take the risk of utilizing a grey market reseller, then you also have to understand the very real possibility that this could happen to you. The question is, of course, what's legitimate and what is not. There are plenty of legitimate sites that you can buy from that will not suffer from this issue. This is not an exhaustive list, but I will try and tell you. So, what do we got? Steam, obviously, Origin, Gamersgate, Greenman Gaming, Get Games, Gamefly, GOG, Desura, Amazon, Impulse, and Shop2 are the ones that come off the top of my head. There are probably more of them, but most of the others are actually unauthorized resellers, and if you do business with them, then unfortunately you do take that risk. And it's going to become an increasing problem. A lot of the alternatives to actually fixing this issue are unfortunately bad for consumers in general, and will involve punishing consumers that didn't even get involved in the grey market at all. Now, it's not like what you're doing is illegal. You don't know whether or not a key is actually legit. And buying grey market keys from other regions isn't actually illegal. But just know if you are going to do it, then there is a risk that you might get burned. And maybe you've saved a bunch of money that way, but unfortunately, if something goes wrong and you end up losing out on a $40 or $60 title, well, maybe that's going to ruin your savings just a little bit there. So, again, it's at your own risk, but I don't blame Rebellion at all for this. What other choice did they have? 7,050 Steam keys at $50 a pop represents $342,500 of gross revenue. However, here's the thing. What's going to happen to all of those people that actually lost out? How many of them are really then going to go on and buy a legitimate copy? This is where the sting in the tail is, right? This is where you've got to kind of view Rebellion's act as more of a statement and a standing up against this kind of issue, than an actual way to recoup losses. I would imagine that only a fraction of the people that got their Steam keys revoked are going to then go on and buy a new copy, at least not until the game goes on sale. So that $352,500 worth of revenue sounds really tasty, but you don't have a way of getting to it, yeah? That's actually a false number, yeah? It's just a phantom. You're chasing it, you can't get a hold of it. It's like the lost revenue from piracy numbers. You can't prove that it would have been a sale in the first place. It is possible the only reason why they went for it in the first place is because it was cheaper. There are some people who are discerning consumers. They looked for the cheaper price, they got the cheaper price, they got burned on it, and then maybe they go back. And obviously they dangle the DLC in front of you, which is not particularly good incentive to say, hey, come on down and buy a legitimate copy and we'll give you this DLC for free. That's not going to convince a lot of people, I think, and a lot of angry gamers are most likely then just going to go pirate the title. So why would they do it? Now, did they really have a choice? Could they just have let this go? They could have, but I think it's kind of important, one, to punish those responsible for selling the illegitimate keys in the first place. I think that has to be done. One way or the other, Rebellion's not really getting its hands on much of that money. Yeah, that's not going to happen. You probably just created 7,000 more pirates. But you are at least hurting the companies that sold the stolen keys in the first place. And if enough companies do that, and more to the point, enough of these stories come out, it will be made obvious that these companies cannot be trusted, and they will lose customers. I think that is the end game of it, yeah? You take some PR damage in the short term, but potentially you start to shut down some of these companies, or you at least force them to get their act together and stop breaking the law, stop selling stolen goods. Rebellion's doing themselves no favors at the moment, of course, again with this frivolous lawsuit, so that's not really helping them from a PR standpoint either, and they've made mistakes in the past. This is the second time they tried to do this, by the way. They did it back in 2012, if I recall correctly, and lost pretty badly, so it boggles the mind that they would try and do it again. But at the end of the day, are you really gonna stand by and let someone who has your stolen property sell it for a profit and get away with it with no consequences? Because they will keep doing that if you show that weakness. If you want to be mad at Rebellion for anything, then be mad at them for this ridiculous lawsuit. But taking them to task because they wouldn't refund the game that you bought that was stolen from them in the first place? No, redirect your wrath at the people that sold you the stolen keys. I have a feeling we're going to see an awful lot more of this going forward, unless Steam decides to crack down on these region-locked copies. But even if they don't, there's still going to be stolen keys, and they're still going to get sold somewhere. You're going to find them on eBay, you're going to find them on trading forums, you're going to find them on these illegitimate third-party resellers. So be an informed and savvy consumer. If you're going to take that risk, then you're going to have to deal with the potential consequences. Alright folks, that's me done for the day. Thank you very much for watching the content patch. Before I go, OC Remix track. We haven't played one of these in a while, so let's make sure we play a good one. How about something from the rather fantastic DOS shoot-'em-up Tyrion, published by Epic Games in 1995. The original composer, of course, was legendary Alexander Brandon, alongside Andrus Molnar, and the remixer for this track is Magellanic. This song is simply called Tyrion the Level, and the name of the remix is Data Flux, starting with a really nice intro into some great guitar sounds with some awesome piano and percussion involved. It's pretty good. Thank you very much for watching. I'll see you next time.